Robby and I, the way we met a while back was actually through a musical community. We had a percussion class together, and long story short, we ended up on a Cuba trip that was offered by the musical group, and it was a great trip, and that actually allowed us to have a conversation on investments and real estate and such, something that I knew very little about at that time, talking about 8 years ago or so. At a certain point in the conversation, you know, I did tell him I do have an itch to actually make a move, some kind of move, you know, with the money that myself and my wife has saved over the last, couple of years. What a better guy to go through than Robby, right? Someone who's dedicated and passionate about what he does. I consider myself a pretty decent judge of character, and the connection that we had, even as friends, but as business friends as well, was basically immediate. I know a lot of people that work in the investment industry and the real estate industry. I have family that works in the real estate industry. Not always the best idea to mix family and business together. So Robby was actually the perfect venue, perfect guy to actually do this through. And he said, okay, what we can do is we can invest perhaps, as a starter that you are, we can invest perhaps in a condo. And he mentioned, I remember specifically, he said downtown is a bit pricey right now, but he did mention a project coming up, and it's going to be a really good one. And if you're going to move on it, it's important that you get in now. And I said, why? Why now? And he says, construction hasn't started yet, and that's when you want to go in. I said, can you explain that a bit more, please? He's like, yeah. He's like, when you invest in real estate, because it's a long-term investment, in other words, you want to buy and you want to hold, you need to get in, if you can, from the ground. In other words, before construction, especially when it comes to condos. Because the one thing that's going to remain constant is time. Hopefully, as history tells us about real estate, at the end of it all, 5 years on average to put up a condo, you're going to be, on the upper end of it. You're going to gain from that investment in the long term. So by him breaking down the strategy of buying and holding for me, he made me feel comfortable with it. I was able to understand it, which is important. Robby's really good at that, having people understand what he's saying in normal language. And so that's what we did. My wife and I were able to pick up one condo pre-construction as an investment, and there was no intention to do this later on, but 3 weeks later or so, we actually picked up another condo on Robby's advice and on our gut feeling. Robby's, my wife's, myself. And as things are going great. The decision to make a move with Robby, with the condos and real estate in general, the backing behind that really came from, my family situation. Forecasting or being able to see my life in the future, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. When Robby and I actually met, I had a newborn. As it is now, I have 3 children, and I want the best for my children as best as possible. The impetus behind investing in real estate was, for us to be ahead years from now. I mean, we could have put our money in other places, the money that we had, which, was a decent amount, but not a huge amount. But because of Robby's advice and the tricks of the trade that he knew, we were able to maximize our investment. And time has gone by now, and we're starting now to see the return on investment. Things so far worked out really great.